evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wisdom Seat, our evening and retreat tomorrow with Venerable. Our evening tonight talk and program tomorrow with Venerable Tenzin Dasel. Richard and I had the great good fortune to meet Sunma La last year and invited her right away to come to the Wisdom Seat, and here we are, a year later. I will consult her bio to make sure I get it all straight. She is the spiritual director of Tashi Gyatso Ling. She served as assistant to Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo and her nunnery, Donggu Gyatso Ling, in northern India, and returned there last year. And she'll tell her story of how it is that now she's here. She's a graduate of Bates College and Bangor Theological Seminary, studying and practicing with her root Lama, His Eminence Kabje Khyentse Rinpoche Lobsang Setan, since 2002, and was ordained by His Holiness Dalai Lama in 2017. Tenzin Dasel, she's teaching and leading workshops and retreats in the USA and internationally now. So with great delight, welcome.
Thank you. Sangye choran saki chonam changchu bardi ragni kapsuchi dagi junsaki pesonam ki chona penchir sangye druparshak sangye choran saki chonam la changchu bardi ragni kapsuchi dagi junsaki pesonam ki chona penchir sangye druparshak sangye choran saki chonam la changchu bardi ragni kapsuchi dagi junsaki pesonam ki chona penchir sangye druparshak. So good evening, everybody. Firstly, I would very much from my heart like to say thank you to Allison and Richard for approaching when we met down at the Shivananda Ashram. They had the idea to organize this, and after a lot of back and forth, as she said, here we are. And all the other people behind the scenes, of course, making this beautiful center possible, keeping it going through their generosity, through their practice, creating opportunities for us to gather. Whether we know Dharma or not knowing Dharma, we can admit this is a beautiful space to be in this evening. So yes, my name is Tenzin Dasel. My ordained name is Tenzin Dasel. Yes, come, sister. And tonight is just a secular talk. You know, tomorrow is actually just practical practice of Dharma, but I say that refuge prayer before talking with you tonight, because if there's some wisdom that I have to share, really comes from my study of the Dharma through the Buddha and from the kindness of my teachers. And without their effort, you know, to keep the Dharma, which just means the teachings of the Buddha, without their effort to keep that tradition alive, you know, none of us would really be here, because the people who helped keep this center going, they also met a Tibetan Lama many decades ago who inspired them. You know, and we don't necessarily need Tibetan Lamas, and we don't necessarily need to be a Buddhist practitioner, have a Buddha belief faith, but we do need some wisdom these days, we can all agree, isn't it? I mean, it's beautiful that the space is called the Wisdom Seat. We need like auditoriums of wisdom seats around the world, because of very difficult times these days. You know, a lot of confusion for people. I mean, all of us are, we could say, quite in our at least middle age, Kaya exception, but maybe also behind the computer screen, are young people. But you know, from whatever age we're at, from beginning all the way up through the whole life, there's no point in life that we do not benefit from wisdom and compassion. We all had teachers. We had the good fortune to have education. Even the worst public education in this country is better than a lot of countries where there is no education available. Why? Because we learn how to read, how to think. We start to value, we can judge for ourselves what is really wisdom, what makes sense, and what doesn't. And these days, this becomes very, very important. for ourselves and especially for the younger generation. Because in the end, they will have the responsibility to carry on a good life in this world, good democracy, good participation, humanity, with love, with compassion, with wisdom. But what to do if they cannot find the wisdom, right? So tonight we're talking a very practical, finding balance in these troubled times, in the times that feel very difficult to maintain clarity, to maintain wisdom. So I don't know if I have anything really very special to say. I think what I want to really just share with you are these two, what we call these two wings of the bird, wisdom and compassion. And so wisdom means being able to look in our own life, because we might say, oh, we want to change the world needs to change, the politics needs to change, that country needs to change, that person needs to change. But the truth of the matter is we can only really change one. It's not out there. But that's where the eyes are always looking. The problems are out there. No, the projector is in here. The projection coming out like this, coming through the mind, coming out the eyes. Then we see the reality. We see a comedy, we see a drama, we see a tragedy, we see a horror. Everything is the humans creating for the most part, isn't it? 99% of the challenge for the humanity is created by the humanity story. And it does have all those things in it. But the difficulty is if we stop forgetting to remind ourselves, yes, it's not always just a drama. It's not always just a tragedy. It's not always just a war story, a conflict. If we keep feeding on certain kinds of stories, we lose the bigger picture. We lose our sense of humor. We lose our joy. We lose some softness towards ourselves, our humor. I mean, really, if I can't laugh at myself, then I'm in trouble. Of course, I love to be with any brothers and sisters around the world, but living with the nuns and the monks especially, we're always laughing, we're always creating a little difficulty for each other, because that's how we practice, being a little bit rascals with each other. It's okay, it's allowed, because we're helping each other. First of all, now, let's take this like a storyline of tragedy or of like this divisiveness that often the mind goes into. We think a little bit like we, they, right? We often, especially these days in the West, have a lot around politics, opinions about what to do with our bodies, the terms we want to be called, I don't know, all kinds of ideas, really. But if the ideas don't bring us joy and happiness, are they really good ideas? We have to ask. If we're always in division and we're always thinking about ideas that are separating in discord, maybe sometimes we need to look critically to see where we can keep growing. But if we keep looking and all it brings is pain, well, we need some new ideas. Otherwise, we're missing the point of the joy of our precious human life. The human life has so much richness in it, so much beauty, so many opportunities to learn, to grow, to fail, to try again, to succeed, to fail again, to try again. I mean, that comedy aspect has to be there. That kind of adventure aspect has to be there. Our courage, our innate capacity for change. And we can't ever say like, oh, no, now we've reached it, that we've changed enough, or, oh, how horrible, we haven't changed more. Look at all the bad stories from the past, and beat ourselves up with our past stories. We're dissatisfied with the history, with the ignorance of the past generations. It should be better now. Those stories are about ourselves. Those beings back then, they were doing the best they could do. So, like the divisiveness yesterday, we were in Massachusetts in a public school, and the teacher asked the students, okay, you have questions for Anila or for the Geshe. I was with a Ladakhi monk friend who's a Geshe, like a PhD. And they were very quiet, so I said to the juniors and seniors, okay, I have a question for you. What's the biggest challenge facing your generation? One girl says, oh, the global warming, the climate change. And, Geshe-la said, okay, that's also a good one. Let's look at that one. How do we come to the climate change? Well, we have a desire as a humanity to keep inventing, growing. So 100 years ago, a little more than that, the Industrial Revolution, we start to create many things. We're very clever beings, building factories, the cars coming online. We want different kind of machines. We build more factories, and factories need to be powered, so we're creating some pollution. The Industrial Revolution's coming, then more change is coming, more desires coming from our side. We need more goods, products, so we build more factories, more meats. People all of a sudden have money, now they need more meat than before. We were hunting, some thousands of years ago, one hunt, maybe some meat every once or twice a year. They got lucky to get some kind of meat. Now we need 3 times a day the meats, right? So then we have millions. Cows need to be growing and then farting and creating the greenhouse gases, right? So the humans have these ideas, right? The cows are not saying, hey, I want to become your hamburgers. I'm really tasty, throw me on the grill. The humans have that ideal, right? So in that sense, you can see right away there are a few things. The humans' own desires, their own greediness in some ways, our greediness, never gets satisfied if we always look outside. A little bit of happiness can come from tasty food, but then we need another cow or chicken or fish or whatever, even vegan, whatever you could say. If it's always about the food and the wonderful food, all my young friends, even the nuns who take photo of the food, His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, yes, it's like that now, but think about it afterwards. You take the photo then, not so beautiful, right? So we have to see the whole bigger picture of everything that's happening like this. Same with like the Industrial Revolution and all this like pollution. Okay, this was coming up over 100 years ago, all these factories and smoke and all this new driven desire for meat. But they also didn't have the idea of climate change then. So it came because humans started to think, what are we doing? Like if things are changing so quickly, are we having an effect? So we also had the capacity to ask, oh yeah, maybe we need to make some new change now to tackle that problem. But even just changing the technology, it's not getting to the root of still what the imbalanced, what's going to create the suffering for us. The root is really our desire. If we have unlimited desire to find the happiness through the temporary solutions, we will always have only temporary happiness, right? Isn't it? So, we can solve so many problems from the challenges we create ourselves, but we have to look at the main thing that's the problem, which is this feeling, this wish for happiness and not suffering. But how do we go about to find the real happiness, the real inside happiness? So one college student asked, oh, is it good to go to nature? And yeah, of course, going to nature is good, but if you have to go somewhere to find peace of mind and happiness, what happens when you can't go to nature? Or you just have to be unhappy for the other 23 hours of the day? I mean, we can't just go and be like a bird sitting in nature the whole time. That's not the answer. That's the inner nature of the happiness is already there. The true nature of happiness is already there. But we need to find the key, the key to the wisdom key, to open up into the true nature of that happiness. There's not one living creature who doesn't want happiness. Sometimes people say, I don't care if I'm, well, that's not, a healthy person's not saying that. That's not being honest. Someone says to you, oh, look, I have the happiness pill. You can have it all the time. Everyone wanting that one. That's why now all the marijuana shops are everywhere in the country coming, in addition to all the other medicines and the alcohols and all the health foods. Everything's looking for the happiness pill, some way or another. But it's not really that way, because it's not a lasting one. The effects are going to wear off. Then you need more of the pill. There's not one happiness pill. But the nature, what the Buddha's great insight was, his insight is that our nature of our mind is very pure, very clear, very joyful as it is. It's like a sky, a sunny sky, never with clouds, beginningless, endless space. Why don't we remember that one? Well, because we create habits that are like clouds that kind of block that up. And sometimes we have a glimpse of it in our meditation, or we have a glimpse of it just unexpectedly. We say, wow, that's right, that's really the true happiness. But then the clouds come in, or the phone rings, or the text comes, ding, ding, then our mind's going to the difficulty, the busyness, isn't it? So finding just that taste of the inner happiness is the beginning to start to really become more curious. How do we cultivate that wisdom? That really is our wisdom, to know that the lasting happiness is here, inside. And when I say mind, I don't really mean brain. Of course, brain has something to do with it, because we can examine what brings happiness, positive benefit through our own practice of meditation, through our own listening. So we do a few meditations. Now we're doing analytical meditation. I didn't call it that, but I'm telling you stories, and I keep asking you, isn't it, isn't it? So I'm asking you to think about if I'm saying, if you agree. If you don't agree, come on, let's debate. We can debate. This is what we do. For Buddhists, my background's more Geluk, and I just went to debate school for a month in the monastery at the Shedra, the monastic college in India, last December. And we use debate in our practice to use analytical meditation, to apply reason and logic to look at the nature of the reality. And it's a wonderful learning tool. And we also simultaneously always use compassion. So we're laughing, we're very serious in one way, but we're always cracking up and using joy, because learning is wonderful. Whether it's Dharma learning, any kind of learning a new skill set, learning to transform your own heart and mind by questioning, yes, where does the real happiness lie? And then starting to touch on that, there's joy. It's our innate essence of who we are. That's why, little children, if you go and you look at them playing around on the playground, they can kick each other. And I don't know about in the US, but in the Tibetan and the Himalayan cultures, where I'm more with young nuns and monks, they play really hard and they run around and they tease. And then they'll be a little rough, and then one will be like, and then ha 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 ha, and just tickling, laughing and running away. Even the older kids they play rough, but they don't take it personally. That's the thing, So often what happens is we do take things so personally that we develop habits of seriousness, of difficulty, of divisiveness. Of course, our media is very interested in selling us very dramatic stories. Most of the people who speak on the media, yada, yada, they're like gossipers, gossiping. So you wouldn't listen to those people. My own way I think of it is, I didn't like to hear the gossiping in high school, so I wouldn't hang out and watch those people on TV, pretty much it's kind of come to that. But I read the news and I think about it. I don't listen to the voice, because I don't want to be influenced by their slant of how they're going to tell. I just read, and then I read different sources, because I think it's important to know how different people think about different things. We're very different people. We're going to have a different perspective. And sometimes it's very funny, in a very, sad and socially demented sort of way, but still there's humor. And sometimes it's very tragic and sad and very, like, wow, what happened there? Like people say, wow, what happened to Putin during the COVID time? We came out like we were not there, and now something changed in one person's mind, something changed. And now the world went from just a sigh of relief after COVID to like this other morass. So we can already see the outside world. Everyone's minds were deeply interconnected. That's the world we're living in. We may probably never meet Putin, but we're affected by him, because he's changing the storyline of the humanity. And we're changing it too. So that's why we need the wisdom. We need the wisdom to look at, okay, we don't know what happened. No one wants war. No one in their right mind wants a war. Not to start it, not to be in it, not to be having to support it. And yet still these things come. Why? Because of ignorance, because of desire, selfishness, because of anger, attachment, because of pride. These are difficult human emotions that never will really bring satisfaction. We all feel them. We all have some of these emotions. So we shouldn't feel all of a sudden like we see somebody in some power and like we're judging, our mind is judging as if we don't have those problems ourselves in our own minds. Of course we do. Still have anger and ignorance and attachment, aversion. But that's where our wisdom can be more deep if we really start to looking inside the nature of mind. And we find actually those are emotions. They rise up, they change, they rise up, they change. But there's someone who can watch how those come and go, come and go. And that one who's watching isn't those emotions. Emotions are something else. So often what will happen is someone's out there da, 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 screaming at me. I say, oh, she's nasty. She's a bee, not a buzzing kind. I don't use those words, but just example. But why would I say that about you? Maybe you just had a bad day. Maybe somebody died. Maybe you just lost your job. I don't know. You just have a moment that your mind is under the control of an anger. Maybe it's my own karma in that moment. I have to pay it back. I did it to somebody else. But why do I say it's who you are? It's your habit. Maybe you have an anger habit. Many people these days have an anger habit. But why don't I get upset with the anger? Why should I say that's who you are? Because somebody else comes up from behind and hugs and loves you. You're honey. So that one doesn't think you're a bee. That one thinks you're a lovely flower. Right? So it's not, we think just how we see people is how they are. And then we label them. And then we divide ourselves from them. Then we have a huge suffering difficulty. Wisdom tries to ask us to look deeper inside first. Our own emotions, our own challenge from ignorance, attachment, desire, hatred, aversion, pride, envy, the ones that don't really bring good, happy, so that we can have compassion. We can start there. That definitely starts to bring balance. When we have full acceptance of our whole range of humanity, that's just living inside our own heart, mind. That's a very basic one. This very basic, like Buddhist psychology 101. Because if we cannot give it to ourselves, how can we ever really genuinely have compassion and understanding for everybody? And this life that we're in now, that's what we really have to have. We have to have an understanding genuine for humanity. Not just our Buddhist or our politic or a certain kind of gender or a certain kind of country. Because these things are going to just keep changing so quickly, We have to have a deeper wisdom to really understand how deeply our altruism can grow. First to ourselves. We have unconditional loving kindness. Unconditional loving compassion, joy, equanimity. So there's not like some part of us we hold really close. Maybe we have an identity that we accept about ourselves without even having to think. That part of ourselves we just say, oh, you're a kind person, you're a generous one, you're pretty friendly, you do a pretty good job. Maintaining environments when you're there, you're not creating difficulties. But we might have parts of ourselves we push away. Oh, you're not really genuinely sure what you're doing. You're not genuinely patient. You are full of doubts, but we don't really look at the ones that make us feel a little nervous or insecure. So we split ourselves into just accepting and some part of ourselves, but another part maybe we really don't fully accept as well. Maybe some habits, like I said, some anger habit or some doubt habit, maybe some other addiction habit, shoppings or whatever, food habits, something that we feel like I wouldn't want anyone to know, so I won't look either. But we have to just let everything come in. Fully be seen and loved, accepted from our side. Because then we're being honest with ourselves that that's not very easy to do. But what is easier to do is we accept some part of our own goodness and then we look outside and we go, yeah, okay, I'm not going to look at everything I need to change, but I'll start criticizing all those ones out there, because that's easier. And we create the concepts. What's wrong with the politics, what's wrong with the race relations, the gender relations, everything. We can get very distracted. That's creating more imbalance. You understand? We're communicating. So if we keep doing that one, we're never going to find inner harmony with ourselves. We never will find that wisdom with the peace of mind. And this is why the compassion always has to come together with the wisdom. Because once we have compassion to see our own habit that way, that even with ourselves, there's like a part that's like, a part that we don't like, and maybe a part that we ignore. We're not really looking too deeply. Once we start to look and we go, oh yeah, it is kind of like that. I see that now. Okay. And now I accept it. Then we say, okay, what parts bring me happiness? What parts don't bring happiness? It's very like formulaic, common sense. We can analyze. Does ignoring a problem make it go away? Or do I want to work on my patience? Right? Does impatience, just ignoring being impatient, is it going to help me become patient? Not really. So then we practice more patience. We practice first with ourselves, more humor. More getting, where can we control patience? Sometimes, okay, working on being on time so that you don't feel stressed out. So then you're impatient for the traffic to move so you can get to where you need to be, because you always are running a little bit late. And then you have to get through the traffic. It's their fault that they're in your way. Get out, honk, honk, get out of the way. Well, okay, then that's your impatient practice. Maybe you have to start 10 minutes sooner the next time, for example, right? Because then you can be very cool, patient mind. From my side, I used literally once when I was younger, before being a nun, I literally jumped on an airplane as it was separating. I was that person. You know, in my 20s, I was constantly like so busy doing everything. So we can change, like, you know, oh yes, so today someone says to me, oh, Anila, it's good if we go to the airport early because the whole Boston Marathon is happening on Monday, so many people might be coming, so the traffic might be really full, so instead of 2 hours, let's go 3 hours. Oh, okay, all right, no problem. Then we can work with the free time we have, we can do something with it. So we have to learn that one, you know. India teaches a lot of patience, so the last 7 years mostly I'm between here, more in India, so you really have to learn patience in India. No doubts, no doubts. With everything, with electricity, with maybe toilets there, maybe toilets not there, with clean water, maybe no water, ride showing, maybe no ride is showing. Maybe food, someone remembers you're in retreat up in the mountain, they bring the food, maybe they don't bring. And you're in retreat, you know, that's how it is. So you have to have the patience. So you can train, we can learn everything actually, and it's quite good. So we need to bring some difficulties of our own habits closer to us so we can have joy and we can say, don't ignore them, now we can transform them. And to the point of patience, then we need a kind of an enemy outside to help us learn the patience. If everyone's just lovely to us all the time, and they say, oh, Anila, don't worry, you're late. That's just nice to see you. How can we change the habit? Or if someone says, oh, what is that, you know? How can you have a genuine open heart patience with them not knowing? Like today in the airport, I walked by so many high school students ready to go off on a trip. And I thought, yep, it's a big world. You're going to see a lot of things stranger than this. Yeah, it's fine, it's fine. Or like in Asia, I'm always kicked out of the bathrooms, the female bathrooms. I know right away they're going to say, oh, this is the women's bathroom. And then I turn and say, yes, my mother gave birth to a baby girl. And then we all laugh, you know. I don't have to get angry with that one. So we can always work like that. If we're thinking about being kind to oneself, then we can offer that kindness to others, and especially in a moment where they'll feel very embarrassed, you know. Because if, like the moment with the teenage students, like they really wanted to look, but they wanted to look quietly, but I just look at them and smile. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of shocked and smile, you know? So they don't have to feel embarrassed to be curious. Of course, they're going to see many interesting things. And they don't see like a Buddhist nun or monk somewhere in the US much. And the little Asian ladies, they don't see, someone like 5'8" tall who's a female, really, in Asia usually. It's short, even the men often, quite short. So we can joke about these things. And it makes everyone feel very calm. In the airport in India now, it's like all the military also, you have to go through the checkpoints, and they have male, and just one row for the female. Not many women traveling there. And every time, sir, 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 these big military army guys, I say, madam, madam, madam. And then, oh, sorry, madam, hands to heart. I'm not, and then we're laughing, that's the point, it's the joy. So I think it's really important these days that we remember this comes from the wisdom and compassion, and especially you care for yourself and you'll be patient and gentle with oneself. That creates more inner balance in the world that is itself always going to be a bit off kilter. I think it always has been that way and it will be that way. But our own mental attitude can create the stability. And especially if we really care about putting others' minds at ease. Because I'm one, of 8 billion. Just one is such nothing, really. And without the 8 billion, I don't want to be one on an island somewhere. I want to be with the brothers and sisters. And the kitties and the doggies and the birdies, everything. I want to be with the life. I don't want to be one with just the computer screen in fear, not going to Russia, not going to different parts of the world. I don't know, how it's going to be. I want to feel I'm one of the 8 billion, and this planet Earth is all of our home. So we have to develop that kind of thinking, oh, I want to go there because I want to be with those precious brothers and sisters, and be with them in joy and love and compassion and share wisdom with each other. Understand, have communication, have connection. This is really desperate. We need these days in the world. So, of course, there's practice to do all the time. That's why in Buddhism we call it our practice. Someone asks, well, what do you say? Do you pray? Are you only meditating? No, we're always practicing. There's never a time you can't practice. And it's rarely like here, This is like only a little time during the day. Even for nuns and monks, we're not mostly here. We're in motion. So that finding that inner balance means we're able with our own joy, compassion, wisdom to check up on our own mind, to keep coming back little few times every hour. Oh, how is my mind? Where is my mind? What's on my mind? You can do it when you're eating. Sometimes just put the fork or the chopstick down. Just tasting the food. Oh, where's my mind? Is it with the food, or is it thinking next after the meal? And just keep bringing it back. Mind training, And that's nothing to do with being a Buddhist. That's just a practice we can do as a human being. And with that, you become softer. You become more compassionate, more understanding that it is a bit difficult to do. But you're lucky you've heard a practice you can do. Think of people who have they don't know what to do. They have no training, they have no guidance, no wisdom, helping them think about how to create that inner happiness, that compassion, looking with wisdom, encouraging. Then we can become very convinced that we can truly be there for each other, for the others. Because when we can do that, our own self, we're benefiting, automatically benefiting. No question. No question. Especially in those moments when people's minds are so disturbed, it's not the people, it's just their habit. Maybe the little ladies in Asia, they think there's some kind of weird thing happening there. They don't know why a monk is there in the bathroom with them. So in that sense, it's more my responsibility right away to calm them down, to put their minds at ease. And that's no problem. And the same with the military guys. They're just not really checking. They're just going off of a stereotype. Oh, tall, athletic, bald, get in the male line. So in a way, it's like you're helping them open their minds as well. Oh, they never saw that before. Or sometimes I walk through and I see someone and I go, hey, we've got the same barber. I see a big guy, I don't know. He's liberal, he's conservative, I don't know, I don't care. Make a connection, and it always makes a little smile. So that's the way I think to practice just being good human being. Good human being. Forget even following the Buddha Dharma or something like that. It's really learning to live in the life with peace and with love. And the Buddhist part, because we use the wisdom of looking deeply at selflessness and what is reality and what ways using your body, speech, and mind create happiness for oneself, is by creating it first for the others. Because we do a lot of analytical meditation. Oh, I'm only one. Others are 8 billion. Why would I care just about this one? Those many 8 billion, they're really responsible for this one's happiness. So we analyze, Even this body, did we get this body from ourselves? Did you get your body on your own? No, we had to get from 2 parents. Even if we're like from the sperm and egg in the petri dish, still we need that. Those people doing that together, them putting inside, then the mother carrying. So many beings into even one life, we can't even count it. The kindness, of course, of our mother, she's caring for the 9.5 months, but all the people, the food she's eating, growing the foods, people helping her, the hospitals, all the people making our clothing, making this lovely building. I mean, we can't even count all of our happiness without needing anything is already shown. It's so connected to the others. And it doesn't matter. Sometimes people say, oh, but Venerable, we don't know them and they didn't mean to make us happy. How even much better than that? They didn't even have to try to make us happy. We didn't exert or ask them for any happiness. They just gave us the happiness, isn't it? So this way, if we think very carefully, we can start to transcend like the difference of the appearance, that sometimes we hear what someone says, or we think, oh, she looked at me strange, I don't like that one. If she's thinking about something else, maybe she just got a medical news that she's got to schedule an appointment for, and she's thinking, oh, I hope it's okay. Or her parent or something got a bad news, and she's thinking about that. But we see a little look on her face, and we take it very, oh, she doesn't like me. So then I don't like her. It has nothing to do with you. She's not looking at you. She's having her own expression. You, in your mind, are making it about you. So we do this quite a bit, actually, without even noticing it. But with humor and compassion, we can start to notice those habits, and it becomes interesting. It really becomes interesting to try to see, okay, now, where are those habits? One of my teachers would say, those are habits that are like bad roommates, so we need to evict those. They're not living anywhere else except in our own minds. They're occupying some rooms there. And if those roommates are being troublemakers, time to evict. The one's impatient, the one always making the bad story about me, the one that's always critical, throw them out. No one else can evict them. But we have to start to notice that they're really the troublemakers, that they're not bringing us happiness, they're not bringing us peace of mind, they're not qualities that we want to keep around and live with. Yeah. So this is also wisdom, so it means unplugging from the news of the rest of this unbalanced world that we often put so much attention to, and staying just with our own experience throughout the day, throughout the night, paying attention to our dreams. We can start to at least remember some dreams. How many people can remember dreams sometimes? Yeah, I'm not saying dream yoga. I'm just like, but see, your mind is present in your dream state. Where's your body? You don't really see your body in your dream. You see your body lying in your bed dreaming the dream? No, I mean, you might have a dream body. You might have some form, but it's not the same identity as your physical form. So your mind, our minds are constantly active. In our dreams, they're active even if we're a little bit spaced out. There's some thoughts maybe. They're active when we're moving, driving. Maybe not so much on driving, but many other thoughts might be coming. So we just start to get curious and watch the mind a little bit. We wake up, notice the content of the dream. We feel really good with the dream. Why? What happened in the dream that we felt good? Well, probably something virtuous or pleasant. If we feel a little bit woke up from a bad dream, usually something scary, something non-virtuous has happened, something threatening feeling, right? So we can start to notice about how the mind is easily creating the emotions connected. So once we start to notice that, we can start to know our own habits. We all have different habits. And we have to decide for ourselves what brings the happiness, peace of mind, the stability, and what doesn't. And then we can start to cultivate those habits. The same with friendships. You know, sometimes we have to lose some, literally not just our inner friends or our inner troublemaking roommates. Sometimes in our life we have to decide, you know, someone in Maine shared with me recently, hey, I knew this friend from when I was younger and a lot of time windsurfing and kind of kept connection, but over the last few years his anger habits become so strong. I don't really trust to like have him around my wife and my teenage daughter because of this, you know, maybe swearing, I don't know, he didn't go into it, but the anger is so tangible. I said, yeah, well, you know, sometimes we cannot keep friends forever. You know, friend can become a stranger can become an enemy can become a friend. It changes the label. But I said, you can keep him as your friend, but maybe if you're a good friend, share with him, you know, these habits are making it difficult to continue the friendship. And he has to decide, that person, if he wants to change how he's using his speech or if he's able to do that. But it doesn't mean we just keep presence of people in our lives just because of an old habit that we always said they were a friend. They should have qualities also. They should have honesty qualities to be good friends, have calmness, body, speech, and mind, have good virtues, speaking nicely. Yes, okay, maybe occasionally they need to have an F word or whatever, but not every other word, especially around your teenage daughter. You know, you should be careful with these things. So we have to check carefully, you know, and then maybe sometimes people decide they don't want us to be the friend. They don't like this appearance. It's too extreme. What is Buddhism? Oh, I don't know what that is. So, okay. Then we can practice. We genuinely have love or not. Genuinely have loving kindness, altruism, selflessness. Because in Buddhism, that's what we're talking. This love is saying, I love you and I want you to be happy. If that includes me, that's wonderful. And if it doesn't include me, I still love you and want you to be happy. That's a real true definition of love. And then if the friend or relative, you don't have any problem, but that for some reason they don't want that friendship anymore, you still love them and want them to be happy? If you don't, that's where you have your work to do. You know, it's as simple as that. And really we should wish that for all beings, because they're just like us. They want happiness, they don't want suffering. It doesn't matter what politics, what political troubles, what financial troubles, what war troubles. They're a human being like us also. And some have much harder habits, more confusion. It also doesn't mean we should just accept the aggressions and everything else, but it means we should do what we need to do still with wisdom and compassion. Not just with retaliation, not just with anger, not with malice. But then we're maybe even worse than that aggressor, right? If we can't rise above with wisdom, compassion, clarity, with still maintaining the human dignity for that one. Because obviously these days many have lost the human dignity. They're willing to be in the confusion. I don't say willing, but they are already in the confusion, thinking that the body, speech, and mind actions don't matter. But of course, they will come back. They will come back. The karma is there. Karma just means action. And it may not catch us in this life. It will catch us eventually. Generally, it does catch up to us quite quickly these days. So it behooves us to think for ourselves first, my body calm, my speech pleasant. That's a reflection of a good mind, and that we can do. My teacher from India, from Ladakh, he was coming to this country a long time. Now he's in his mid-80s, so he maybe is going to come next month, but he's not coming and traveling much anymore. But he would say for years in the talks he would give, he loves Americans, but he said the thing is that in America everyone is so outwardly focused. You like to shower in the morning. You'll go to the gym, shower after the gym, and then maybe before going to bed, shower again. He said, but no one here knows how to take the inside shower. We say, oh, Rinpoche, what's the inside shower? You sit down for 10 minutes in the morning, and think, is my mind clean now? My speech is going to be pure today. My heart is shining. My body is in control. Like that. You take an inward shower for those minutes. Maybe more beautiful than the outward shower. Yeah. So that's very good advice because people, they're not going to remember what cologne you're wearing or if you took a shower or not that day on your physical body. But if you smile beautifully at them, they'll remember that one. If you held the door for them or helped them with something, they'll notice you very quickly. If you're very patient and you let them go ahead of you in line, your inward shower smelling very beautiful to them, they're really appreciating. So we have to look carefully these days what we are doing with our body, speech, and mind. What are our habits? Are they really wise habits? Or can we, sharpen our wisdom sword a little bit? See where we can make different decisions, what to leave out, what to cultivate and bring in, with compassion, with joy, with humor. This we can do. This creating a very good stability for us. Then our own ethics are there. And we definitely need ethics. So in Buddhism, our foundation of our practice is the ethical practices of the body, speech, and mind. Non-harming, that means first to oneself. That's why the bad roommates have to get evicted. We have a critical voice, yada, 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 not good enough, da, 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 then evict. Then we check our speech. Well, I taught high school in Hawaii. I had to ask for a transfer after 1 year because I couldn't hear the language anymore. It hurts the ear to hear the children, ways they're speaking sometimes. Thinking it's cool, like protecting, using swear words, thinking that's a tough, cool way, adult way to be. These days I'm shocked, I don't really watch, sometimes sociological experiment, I look at the television. I cannot even look anymore in this country at the television. It's too shocking how degrading the things are. And I think very sadly for the young children exposed to that one. And I'm really not a prude at all. I definitely had a good time in my 20s in Berlin and living in the world. But I think that has nothing to do with just not caring at all about how your actions of body, speech, and mind do influence others. And what legacy are you leaving for the younger generation? So children these days, they can see anything on the internet, anything on the TV. Big problems the mothers have, catching this children looking at the pornographies. That's very sad. Because, the body's a beautiful thing. It's not through the pornography, not the right way to get a good body connection. Yeah. So we need more wisdom and compassion. And we need to check ourselves to be able to be very beneficial for the others. Not judgmental of the person, but of what brings the happiness, the habits. Which place our mind goes that creates the happiness, creates more wisdom, more investigation, more compassion. And which place our mind goes that creates more division, more ignorance, blaming others, saying that certain classes of people or politics or situations are not worthy of their full humanity. Of course, everyone's worthy of the full humanity, but it's the actual habits, which afflictive emotions don't bring the goodness and happiness for every oneself and others, and which ones do. That we can see very clearly. If you have in a room just humanity somewhere, let's say babies, because they don't have politics, they don't have big thoughts, just babies. And they've done a lot of research with neuroscience, and they show babies who are pre-verbal, a little cartoon. They're doing this out at the University of Wisconsin with Richie Davidson, who's doing a lot of neuroscience research. The babies who see the little cartoon characters helping each other do a task, they're like giggling, happy. The same babies, the next time they show those little cartoon characters fighting over something, the babies are crying right away. They're totally upset. So it shows, it's proving that we are wired for the compassion as who we are as humanity. We are just innately in tune to goodness. And we rejoice in seeing that, even if it's just little cartoons that these babies can respond to. And even though we get older and we get clever and we have philosophies and politics and beliefs, are we still able to find joy? Or do we get lost in the complexity of our own systems that we've created through just thought? So we have to be very careful to stay really deeply open to wanting to invite the joy with the compassion. Staying more back in touch with innocence, with some simplicity of enjoying, like the beautiful warm day today or all the flowers. I said it was interesting because on Wednesday I started in Maine, so the buds are just getting green on the trees. A little bit of like the crocuses just came up. Then we went down to Cambridge, Massachusetts for a few days. Now the leaves are coming, the flowers are there. Then today we came into Philadelphia, everything's blooming, you know? So you just enjoy that whole process of what's going on. And we can enjoy our practice, whatever we say, our dharma practice, like a lotus. A lotus is this beautiful flower. I think you all know what it is. But in India, has anyone been to India? So in India, the lotus, there's many like swamps and ponds, and even in Sarnath, near where the Buddha gave the first teaching of the Dharma, very swampy, dark waters, but all these beautiful, bright pink and blue lotuses will come up out of this dark, murky water, polluted water. You know, there's a lot of pollution in India. How they do it, I don't know. Literally nothing should grow in that water. The scientists have come from the West and measured the pollutions per cubic millimeter. The Ganges in that water in that area in India are thought to be the most polluted in the world, and yet still life comes. And so we use this as a metaphor that the morass, the difficulties of the society, of the different kinds of lessons people are here learning, the different ideas, it's a little bit swampy and murky. We call it samsara. It's the place where things are really mixing in from ignorance, from attachment, kind of selfish attachment, desire, from anger, hatreds, jealousy, pride. It's kind of swampy and dark. And yet still, that lotus pod is down there, and for some capacity, through that mud and murk, sends out a little tendril of a shoot. How it even knows which direction to go. And literally it's like as dark as your shirt, you know, that water. But somehow it knows where to find the light. And it starts searching, and it goes. And eventually it will come up out of the top of that dark, murky water as a lotus bud. And it will blossom into these amazing big lotuses. And the lotus stands, it's not like a lily pad flower that sits on the water. It's literally above the water. And yet it's still connected to that. And that's why in Buddhism you'll see this symbol of the lotus very often as the symbol of renunciation. Meaning, yeah, I know, I'm still connected, samsara's down there, but this nirvana is looking pretty good up here. So you can work with everything, you know. It's not that you have to get sucked down into all that difficulty, all that confusion, all that heaviness. You work with it, but you don't become part of it. You rise up above it. That's it. You know, then you can really start to be grateful. Oh, I'm so glad that colleague's so difficult. He's my perfect, or she's my perfect teacher of patience, right? Because we need difficulties to grow patient. We need someone who makes us feel challenged around impatience. To grow genuinely compassionate, we need someone who really doesn't like us. We can feel it for whatever reason, karmically. And or someone changes their mind and says, someone really liked us, like a relationship, you know, that changes. Relationships are changing. I'm in love. You're my wonderful, delicious one those first 6 months, you know. It's great. You met the soulmate. Everything's going to be right. The pink cloud is everywhere. Yes. See, you're grateful that Anila knows these things. I'm not just little Himalayan nun girl from the beginning. But after those first 6 months of glory, reality sets in. And then you got to deal with the humanity of the moment. You've had your little bliss bubble. It is popped now. Now the real question, do you really love that being, comes up. You're going to go for another 6 months and start to really understand who that person is, not just the projections. Yes. And so now we're talking more realistic, okay? The human emotions are coming, those other sides are showing. And then our challenge is going to be, now our ignorance is no longer there. Now our wisdom and our genuine interest has to show itself or not, right? So we have this great opportunities just in our own ordinary human lives. And then in that case, it does not matter your whatever gender thing you want to call yourself. You're a human being, you know, having a human experience in whatever way it's meaningful to you. Great, wonderful, I rejoice for you. You label whatever you want to label, but you're just having some human experience. Learn from it deeply, with your humility, with your honesty, with your wisdom and your compassion. Instead, we get very confused, carried away. That joy is finished, so then the relationship finished. Gonna find a better one, new one. There's not a better new one. No, that one's good enough. That one doesn't want to be with you anymore. You still want to be there, isn't it? We cannot change the mind. Someone makes up their mind. Sorry, no more. So we can learn always changing then compassion, not only our curse as an unlovable being. Everyone understands suffering we don't want, happiness we want. Change can come. We really care about that person, we say, okay, I love you, I still want you to be happy, go be happy. If that includes me, great, and if it doesn't still love you, want you to be happy. But often instead, fighting over money, fighting over material, who gets the car, who gets the house, who gets the dog, who gets the yada, 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 whatever, you know? Where's the love from the first 6 months of the pink cloud? It's like a very dark one now, raining, thunderstorms, always. So compassion, you know, because everyone has human relationships. We're human beings. We have complexities, but we can remember if we really, really, truly love others, they're also just as convinced of their own experience as we are of ours, so we have to give space. Sometimes we can hold more space to try to understand from their side. Sometimes we need to ask for space from our side, but we hold the compassion and we use the wisdom. Oh, remind us, just like me, they want happiness, don't want suffering. Just like me, they're doing the best they can. Just like me, they have bad roommates. And some good ones, too. And they're giving opportunity They're very racist, they're very homophobic. In our own families, of course, these things can come. They're better in our own families because they're more hurtful, actually, than if some stranger is homophobic to us or racist to us. But if it's in our own family, then it's better because it hurts us more. It shows us the real dangers of those thoughts. Yeah. I say better because we see how dangerous those kinds of thinking, labeling, misperceiving the reality are. Our compassion can get deeper, you know. I mean, like Gandhiji, he wasn't going to be a great Indian sadhu leader. He was going to be a lawyer. He was wearing tweed coats. He was going to get educated in London. It was only when he himself experienced racism in South Africa that he even had a concept of racism. And his country was already colonized, you know, for a long time by Britain. He grew up in that. So it was good he had the personal experience. He changed a nation. And these days in India, Gandhi's very vilified. It's amazing. It's amazing. He's a bad guy now because he was Hindu and he didn't want to go all the way to totally challenge the caste system fully. In that moment, he was accepting of Hindus keeping a certain level. Why? Because in certain points in time, you can only change so much, but it didn't mean he didn't want eventually for the caste system to dissolve. It's just that he also understood that it's very fragile when big social change comes. You could dissolve the entire country into chaos. And the same now with racism in this country. Of course, the founding fathers, many of them, they did not want slavery at all. But the project they were involved with right here in this place was so tenuously fragile and powerful, they had to compromise to a degree to put that good work off into the future for some other better generation to take care of and finish up. Of course. So if we lose our wisdom, if we can't see the long vision that we're involved with constantly growing, transforming, that it takes a lot of patience, a lot of courage, a lot of compassion, a lot of altruistic love. If our young people just get so upset saying, like, look at this world, you guys messed it up, why do you have the climate change? Well, thanks for that inheritance, why do you have racism? It's horrible. Of course, no generation wanted these things. Everyone's been doing somewhat to the best that they could all the way along. It's messy. Humanity's messy. But, you know, liberation's possible. What if the lotus just said, this mud is messy, I'm not going to even try? Yeah, I might have a beautiful lotus inside, but oh well. It's too dark, too muddy. You know, so I just expect better of us, frankly speaking, as humanity. And with Buddhism, when I found Buddhism, it's like, yeah, and I believe we all are Buddhists in our own potential to become that, but through a lot of work, you know. So maybe you don't want to be a Buddha, that's fine, but we need to be better human beings, for sure. Meaning for our own happiness, first of all, we get to be wisely selfish. What His Holiness the Dalai Lama will say is wisely selfish, meaning if we do transform thinking about benefiting the other 8 billion ourselves, we're already gained something, we can do that. It shouldn't really be our main motivation, but it's okay. It's okay, it's a good byproduct. But if we really look at the moment of humanity's big pressure right now that we're in, there's no doubt that we cannot not do this. It's not really a choice right now around using wisdom and compassion for our own capacity in our own little sphere that we can create change in. Our own heart, our own interactions every day do truly matter deeply, deeply. It's not really, it's a myth that we think politicians or something are going to make the world better. Look, sometimes yes, but it's the people, especially in our country. It's we the people, not me the people. And so I think this part of Dharma that's really the Buddhist teachings to develop more capacity of stability in uncertain times to find the inner balance is once we find it there, we can take that everywhere. We can not, I'm saying not, you don't have to go to India and become a nun or a monk, it's not like that, but you can take it anywhere in your society. You can take it into your friendships with your family members who think differently. You can use it as a practice to find the harmony through the difference, not by having to agree or ignore what others think, but to be genuinely curious, why do they think that way? You know, if we were in their circumstances with exactly the same causes and conditions, we ourselves would think that way. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has often said, if I were in China and I hadn't been born in Tibet in the time I was born in that family, knowing my role to become the Dalai Lama, if I was born a little further north in Beijing to a working family that had just barely managed to stay alive and not starve from the starvation and the famine, I also would have signed up to go liberate people who I was being told were being oppressed in their feudal society. I also would have wanted to liberate Tibet. And people sometimes don't hear what he's saying, but he's saying, if you're in a certain place because of your own thinking, your own mindset, that is going to influence your body, speech, and mind. And maybe you're not even going to have the opportunity to think about why that is. I mean, I was always quite shocked by that because my own mind, since I've been young, was always like, why? I mean, probably it was good that I said that because it gave me confidence, you know, as a young girl. But that was a very specific, you know, privilege in a way that I had to be born in those circumstances in Western Massachusetts and having parents who were teachers and growing up in a place where all these amazing colleges were, and that was encouraged. But it doesn't mean every girl who was born in 1966 thought that way, not at all. And so, you know, if we ask ourselves why, we also can then say, why not? You know, why is it this way? Why can't it be better? And then what can I do about it? Or why does this part of so-and-so's personality drive me crazy? It's just their opinion about something. It's not who they are. And so in that sense, we have very good times that we're alive and to practice patience, practice wisdom, practice compassion, practice altruistic loving kindness, recognizing just like me, everyone wants happiness, does not want suffering. Everyone not always skillful about finding the real happiness. But I also say, yeah, not very skillful many times, I can remember. That's why I'm like this, you know, so unskillful. Please, I need some wisdom. Let's go to India and meet Jetsuma and meet the young nuns and the monks that are really already like, you know, I say my little brothers and sisters. So clear, so already like knowing this is their path, this is what they want. My friend yesterday I was with 7, he starts at the monkhood at 7 years old, you know, very pure, very wonderful. I don't feel less than that because of his path. I just feel grateful to him for his path. And so it's like that. It's not really that there's anything to really compare or contrast to. It's just if you see qualities and you know, oh, I have things I want to learn, go find some good teachers to help you. Find some good community to help you grow. Or if you don't have it or find it, say, I want to help create that. That's really wonderful. We need each other to learn and grow with together. So I don't know what time it is. Somebody better help me out.
8:38. It's perfect time to segue to the questions.
Okay. That's what time it is. We're segueing to the questions. I'm glad I didn't even need my little notebook, but it's true to its quote, I am here to live out loud, so I've been living out loud with you. So any questions or any answers that you have?
And then there's the online as well.
And hello online as well. Any questions or answers? Yes?
I have an observation. One thing about the lotus in that muddy water, in the mud of samsara, is the lotus plant itself is one of the best water purifiers in the world.
Oh, well, there you go. There's another
You can
good.
put it in the yuckiest place and you give it time, and it'll clarify that water. You can drink it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, well, that's even better. Yeah,
It
another
is.
metaphor. I knew it about the sunflowers because my farmhouse in Maine had lead paint, and you could scrape the old paint down and let it go in the soil if you had sunflowers planted there, because they'll do the same thing for the soil. They'll purify it. So, you know, nature, we're built that way. That is also part of our nature. And this is why you can have amazing humanity who can take on those poisons of the generation or the moment that they're planted in. I mean, you can say whatever you want about how not good enough Lincoln was, or Franklin, or Martin Luther King, or Gandhi Ji, or Mother Teresa. People do say those things. Now the Dalai Lama, they try to bring down. Good luck. Are you even in that league to breathe in that air, what those beings were doing? You know, so thank you for adding that in. That is the real call for the humanity, is we need those lotuses and sunflowers to say, yeah, I know, this is possible. Let's do some big purification. Just in our own little where we're planted, you know. That will be enough. If each of us could do that, then the humanity, a beautiful garden of humanity.
And even in our own families, I see
Yeah.
my extended family and family back in Europe, which is a very old school, just unlearning the reactive mind, but even just being there, you know, with our intentions of
Yeah.
our practice can help calm down a situation, and they see.
That's right. That's right. Just being there, just holding pure intention, motivation, dedication. May we all be happy. May we all be free from suffering. May we all have joy and equanimity. We don't leave anyone out of that wish. That just holding that in a moment. I just did it. You can do it in the airport, anywhere. And your family's a good example, but anywhere these days, you can bring that in, and it really helps. Even today, I wasn't looking at these people. I didn't even catch, at some moment I saw, oh, she's very upset. I think her voice came. Then she saw it immediately when I caught it, and her voice went down. And I was not looking, like, I'm not going to judge or make people uncomfortable, but her voice immediately went down, and then their conversation ensued. And then I started doing this, what I just said, 4 immeasurable qualities. It does, it changes. Pure motivation. Yeah, yeah.
You know, last month when Rich and I were traveling, I found myself when I was first on the plane, and people are coming aboard, and my mind is going, well, that person has too much luggage, or what's this one got? And then I just stop, and may you be happy, may you be at peace. And by the time I was bored, it was just remarkable.
Yeah, yeah,
Remarkable how
yeah, it's good.
once you
So that's why it's good to have what I said, a practice, you know, so you have a few little tools that you can just quickly let the mind go to something beneficial. Otherwise, it will just keep ruminating. So.
First of all, thank you for your talk.
Oh, my pleasure.
How to deal with triggers out there in the world.
Yes.
I'll give some advice on that.
Yeah.
Can you repeat? I think because we have an online situation, people aren't hearing the questions, and people have.
Ale. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Thanks. I was just asking how to deal, or strategies for dealing with triggers.
Yes, out
that
there
you
in the
come
world,
from.
you said.
Yes.
But I will start first by suggesting they're not out there in the world. Because if there are triggers out there in the world, they would trigger everybody. So the first place to start with is recognizing what are your triggers, right? Because they're different for all of us. And yes, they will appear and present in our environment, but it won't be a trigger that's out there in the world, because if it was like that, everyone would get triggered. So it's not that way, right? But for your triggers, the first thing is recognize what are your triggers. You don't have to tell me, but tonight you should write a list. The ones you really know about. You already really know. We're not like young people, but you know what your triggers are. Then you identify what are the antidotes. So I used mine, impatience. The antidote, patience, loving kindness, compassion, right? That starts, though, first with the wisdom to recognize the awareness. Oh, impatience is coming, right? The awareness as soon as it starts to arise. Maybe you know certain scenarios that are triggering. So then you start to pay more attention. What is it about that scenario? You might label it's the person in that dynamic, but my guess is it's much more something about a dynamic than a person, right? Either a personality trait or something that it brings up. So more awareness than compassion. If you cannot have to deal with that for a while, that's good, more compassion. But eventually, when you find yourself in it, right away, compassion. Compassion, if you feel flooded, then why we use mantra? Mantra means mind protection. Best mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra of compassion. Om Mani Padme Hum just means hail to the jewel in the lotus. And the jewel in the lotus is the wisdom and compassion together. And you can't think something at the same time with the mantra. So you use a mind protection, and it tends to help you cool yourself up. Clear. Triggers tend to flood us with emotion. I've recognized now Americans are very emotional thinkers. Asians are very logical thinkers. That's why it's hard sometimes. We don't understand each other. They seem very cool and being a little stereotypical, but I'm saying it more from living with the Himalayan Tibetan practitioners. And they won't really go into the emotionality very quickly. And that's what often will trigger us, is an emotional response. Right? So just that is good.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Anything online that people are asking on?
No, not yet.
No? Yes? No? Okay.
Can you share a little bit more about the seminal points in your own path, Sunmala?
The 7 points?
Seminal points,
Oh.
where you, what led to here you are
Oh,
at
well,
middle age.
Suffering.
But the inspirational moment.
Really, it started there. When I was young, I think I was really looking for truth. I remember being quite young and picking up like Plato's Republic and Socrates and some books and being really curious about what is truth. And definitely some suffering, like my parents divorced when I was young, and I thought, oh, no one else's mommy and daddy don't live together, and what's happening? And but they still were so kind and so present in my life. I thought, well, I'm not really suffering, but I was aware of, sorrow, sadness. Pets dying. Well, if there's God, why is the pet dying? Like having these questions at a young age. And I really like to discuss since I was young. And so I often discussed with any teacher and adult. And partly being raised Catholic, you weren't really encouraged to do that. But I had really good Italian nun friends, and they always encouraged me, yes, keep discussing, keep discussing. And then as I got older, I recognized, this won't be a path for me. I love Jesus and many things, but if you cannot use reason and rationality, I just couldn't go further on the theistic path. Because I was like, if there's really that, how could it have been this? World War II and World War I and potentially nuclear war and on. Like, what would that say about a deity? So again, like analyzing. And but still at the same time, really, I love, I love life. I love humanity. I love many things that I was doing in life with sports and studies and nature and lots of things. So I thought, I guess we're really going to have to do a lot of learning, myself and also this planet, whatever. When I was young, I had the chance to go to South America when I was 21, and that was like being on a whole different planet. So I was like, whoa, like what is this planet Earth? And the people were so poor, but they were so kind. And during that time, I was a little bit caught in the Civil War and heard machine guns and really felt my life is quite on the line. And I thought, oh, you better not waste this life. A friend of mine had died in college very suddenly in Rome, mysteriously. So I also, and another relative. So I also thought, wow, we really could die at any time. So you might have a little bit of fun, but don't take it too easy. Like you know, show up to it, because how long do we have a life? We don't know. And then eventually, I think through that time, I traveled a lot, and I was doing work that I've always believed in, but I felt I got to a point where I wanted a teacher, but I wasn't really sure where to look for a teacher, and then I met my teacher. So that old adage, like, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear, it literally was like that. And I guess why Tibetan Buddhism was, I thought, wow, the Tibetans and the Himalayan people, they have a pretty hard, rough life, especially the Tibetans as refugees, but they're so genuinely happy. They must know something that we don't. And so I just decided, when I met my teacher from India, slowly just to study with him a little bit, and I was a graduate student then, and I said, oh, I've never been to India, but when I was in Hawaii after 9/11, I was teaching in the public high school, no, not in that first year in the high school. By that point in the class 6, I didn't really know what to tell the kids, because on the big island of Hawaii, they've never seen a high rise. And I thought, I'll just teach them to meditate, just to ask what questions are in their minds of what happened on 9/11. So I taught meditation on 9/12, and all the teachers and the principal at the high school said, at the middle school said, yes, anything we think we can do to help them make sense of this and ourselves, we can do. So I really felt I could teach meditation, just breath, easy meditation, and then sit and ask the students, what did you do yesterday? Because on the big island, all the schools were closed, but the teachers had to report to school. And I kept thinking, oh, they're just home watching this on TV over and over again. And yet they've never seen a high rise. Like, how do they know it's not Die Hard? They've all probably watched Die Hard many times. How do they make sense of the reality? So that's what I wanted to know. And I wanted them to really, that's a big thing to see and to feel. Like, I wanted them to get to their question, why would people do this? Which they got to really quickly. And so with the meditation, what was surprising was they liked it so much that I thought, oh, this is what I really want to teach. Like, I want to teach this kind of analytical meditation, the compassion meditation, the single-pointed meditation, how to really hold your mind someplace. And so that moment was very instrumental. And within the next year, I had moved back to Maine, and that's when I met my teacher. And within the next 2 years, I said, oh, I've wanted to go to India. And he said, yeah, come to my school that I started. You can come and teach the students meditation. I was like, really? Aren't you guys doing that? You're Tibetan Buddhists up there in the Himalaya. He said, oh, they mostly will know how to do it. They do it at home, but good idea in school. So I just remember being, maybe 38 or 39 with like these 200 students in front of me trying to speak in this huge outdoor public space up at their school. My voice is getting lost. And then I thought, oh, I need like a singing bowl or something, because then they can know. But the kids love the meditation. And yeah, I mean, just very quickly things started flowing around. And I didn't want to be a nun at that point. That's when I had an organic farm and was finishing my graduate school. But I guess as things started changing more on the political scene and my dharma started going deeper, I thought, wow, I want to go into the robes. Like, some dreams also came. And then I thought, yeah, this is a unique opportunity to go study with the Tibetans and to really, not really so much, I do know some Tibetan, but really learn dharma from them, because they hold this long lineage unbroken to the Buddha. And I just decided in 2014 I'm going to go for it. 2015. My teacher made me ask a few times. He's kind of like, what are you going to do? You cannot come out of the robes in the West. No one's going to support you. There's no nunnery. Which is true. I mean, not that no one's going to support you. There is no nunnery. I said, well, maybe I have to start some little project or something, but let's see. So then I went to India in 2015, and by 2016 took very novice vows, and then by 2017 asked the Holiness Dalai Lama's office, and then took vows with him. And yeah, thought it was I made really good decisions in my life, but that definitely was the best so far. Because I think I've been able to be with the most open people who really want peace and love and harmony and wisdom and compassion in this world. And it's not just here in the US, but in Russia, in the midst of the whole craziness of 2017, 2018, a Russian nun friend said, "You need to come to Russia." And I was like, "Really? Really? Now I need to go to Russia as an American?" I mean, that was like the most tense time. I was like, all right. One of my teachers said, "Maybe you should wait till the summer. It's going to be really cold there in December." I said, "No, they're asking now. I'll just go." But it was wonderful. I mean, people were really curious about Dharma, really wanting to change. Yes, there were some big challenges, but that's just called life. And yeah, I mean, it's cold in the Himalayas with no indoor heating in the winter, but your Dharma is really hot, so it's okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Sunmala.
Yeah.
And unless there are any other questions, we could close, if you want to do that.
Sure,
With a
yeah.
dedication.
Okay.
And then I'll say about tomorrow.
Okay. So let's just think from this time that we shared together. We sat in some meditation. We're listening deeply, thinking about our own story, our own practice as a human. That this really does create wonderful merits, just showing interest, just being curious, how can we find more balance in these challenging times? And that we wish the same as we do for ourselves, that all beings can find inner harmony, balance, and peace. And just as good human beings, with that genuine wish one to the other, without any consideration of who's deserving of that we genuinely dedicate all these merits for the happiness of all mother beings to find true lasting balance, peace, harmony through wisdom and compassion. Jangchup semchok rinpoche ma ke panam ke gyorchi ke parnyam parme paryang gone gondu pelwar. Bodhi mind, precious and sublime, may it arise where it has not arisen, and where it has arisen, may it flourish and grow forevermore. Gangri wa wei korwei shinkam dir pendang dewa malu changwei chenrezi wang tenzin getsoi shapezi te bardu ten gyorchi. In particular, I pray for the one who knows all the scriptures with the power of his intelligence to have a long life through the solid strength of his mind and his mastery of life, in order to benefit the teachings and all beings through his good, wholehearted resolve. May the Holy Lady Jetsama Tenzin Palma's highest noble aspirations swiftly manifest for the benefit of the Dharma, the benefit of her own practice, and the benefit of all mother sentient beings. May we all attain Buddhahood for the benefit of every sentient being.
Thank you, Sunmala, for sharing the teachings of wisdom and compassion, and for being the embodiment of both wings of the bird in the talk tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you for those who are online as well. We will all gather again tomorrow morning. Sitting will begin at 9:30, and the teachings at 10. And our staff will be downstairs if you have any questions, or those onliners can ask them of the Zoom host. So thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.